This lesson is an introduction to JavaScript and jQuery. In this lesson, you'll learn how to use the jQuery JavaScript library in your projects, and specifically, you'll learn how to collapse and expand a div element when the user clicks on a link. This lesson is intended for viewers who need to learn the basics of jQuery or simply need a refresher. Now to begin with, you'll want to open the jQuery toggle.html page, and what you'd like to do here is accomplish the following. If you look at the very bottom of the page, we have a small div section here under the calories per serving heading. What you'd like to do is first hide this heading when the user comes to the page. Secondly, when the user clicks on a link, we want that section to open or expand, depending on the state. Now this is something that you could accomplish with just plain JavaScript. However, you'll be using the jQuery JavaScript library. jQuery is one of the many JavaScript libraries or frameworks that are out there. Most of these libraries are simply large collections of JavaScript functions that have been built and tested by other designers and developers. The benefit of using them is that the designer who's using JavaScript does not need to organize or maintain this library. Additionally, much of the JavaScript has been tested by a large community of users. So it's fairly reliable and can be used in all of your projects for free. So, let's take a look at how this works. I'm going to go back to our code here. And the first thing we need to do is make this HTML file use the JavaScript library. So I'm going to go to this text document that I happen to have. You won't. You would have to type all this out. However, for now, I'm going to copy this script tag and then paste it right here underneath the closing style tag. So this is simply a link to the external JavaScript library called jQuery.js. If you were to open this file, you would see thousands and thousands of lines of JavaScript code. All of these consist of a library of functions that you can use in your project. However, the next step is to become a little more specific. And what we'll add here is a simple script tag. Again, I'm going to go ahead and copy this code, and then we can examine it shortly. So the first thing to examine is this first line of code here. This is referred to as a ready function. And simply put, this prevents your code from searching the page until the document is fully loaded. For example, what we're about to do is hide some text on our page. And so we want that code to be hidden when the page first loads. So let's look at this second line here. Calorie box hide. If we scroll down, we can see that the div ID name for the div that we want to expand and collapse is called calorie box. This is the reference here to the ID name, and we're simply saying hide it. Again, this is another benefit of jQuery. jQuery allows objects in the document object model, or the page, to be selected by several criteria. We're simply saying we want to select one specific element, in this case the calorie box, and search for that specific ID. This is one of the reasons that designers like jQuery. CSS and jQuery work very well together. So let's save our file, load our page, and then refresh our page. When I refresh the page, that entire div section is hidden or collapsed. So you can see here that the jQuery function is working, but now we need to take a little further. What we'd like to do is create a link on this heading here so that when the user clicks on the link, that div will open back up. So I'll go back to my code, and I'm going to find the following line that I've already created. And I'm going to replace this heading 4 down below with that one. If you take a look at your code, it's simply creating a hyperlink on the calories per serving heading, but it's also giving it an ID name called trigger calorie box. This trigger calorie box code will be referenced in some new JavaScript we're about to add. So again, I'm going to go back to my code here, and I'm going to get this code and place it in our original function. So again, we can take a look at what's happening here. The first line references the ID that I just mentioned, trigger calorie box. The second line is an instruction to show the calorie box ID. And the third line is simply to prevent the default behavior of a hyperlink. So this hyperlink doesn't actually go to another page. It's simply going to be opening and closing that div. So we need to make sure that it doesn't think it's a real hyperlink. So let's go ahead and click Save. Look at this in our browser. reload. You can see here that that ID is still hidden, but we now have a hyperlink. When I click on that hyperlink, it will open up. It's being shown. When I click on it again, however, it doesn't do anything. So the code is very specific. It's saying when I click on the hyperlink, show that ID. However, what if you want to close that div when you click on the link? Well, we can use a slightly different syntax. Instead of saying show on this line here, we'll use another property of jQuery. We'll say toggle. We'll save, click on the browser, reload. Of course, it's hidden when we reload, and then we'll click on that link, and it will open it, and then we click again, and it will close it. Now, of course, the next step that you'd be doing in the lesson would be to make a little smoother expanding and collapsing section here with some animation. But for now, you've learned a little bit about the jQuery JavaScript library. Specifically, you learned how to collapse and expand a div element when a user clicks on a link.